Hello. Hello. Well, come on. I invited you as a co-host, damn it. Oh, shit. That's weird. You're requesting. Huh. That was
Wow,
weird.
that was weird, but here I am.
Yeah, I invited you to co-host, and then you requested to speak, and I went in there and it said remove as co-host. I was like, well, I don't want to do that yet. We have a show to do.
Well, at the last second, I was like, I don't got time for this nonsense, so I declined.
Oh, I thought you meant the kids.
That too.
Your wife's out with friends listening right now. I can't believe you said that.
Yeah, she needs to get home from her work trip. Stats. She comes back tomorrow, but she needs
Nice.
to get on a plane. She needs to get on a plane yesterday.
Yeah, we're streaming live everywhere, so I'm not going to say anything sexist or anything like that. So, not that I would, not that I would.
Not that I would.
Excuse me. So you know what I was just doing. I was running a little late. I wasn't really late. I actually hosted a an environmental impact show and near my
Mm,
town.
yeah.
Well, there's a presenter, but they wanted me to come in and introduce him because I know him. He's a friend of mine. I was like, okay, send me this stuff to say, and it was like 2 pages and words I couldn't say, like Savard, Apapagio, some place up near the Arctic. I didn't know. I was like, can you do? He's a diver, master diver. He's dove both poles. He's all over the world. He's dove, and and I'm like, dude, can you at least dive in places I can pronounce?
I
So it gives me a little experience here. But thankfully, they had wine.
was gonna say arpagaggio. That sounds like some like Italian cheese or meat or something, like
Yeah,
a
Apagio.
charcuterie. Was that
Yeah,
French?
it's Dutch. Oh wait, Dutch. Um, Look at this. This guy, he wants to speak already.
Let's get it.
We haven't even started the show yet, and he's requesting to speak.
Well, I just
Where's
wanted
Mark?
I just wanted to say hi, gentlemen. I ain't talked to you in a while. I've been busy. I just wanted to say hey, and y'all were just talking, so I just wanted to
Hey,
make sure
Coach.
y'all were good.
Yeah, man. Good to see you back. Thanks for coming back
Yeah,
in. All
yeah.
right.
Well, season's over, and I've been working night shift, so I just wanted to say hi. That's all.
Nice,
All
man.
right.
Well, don't leave.
I'm not. I'm not. I'm listening tonight. I just wanted to say hi.
All right, dude. We're
I
gonna drop
appreciate
you.
that,
We're gonna
Coach.
remove you from speaking because you've had your allocation of minutes. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But come back up during the show, okay, Coach?
Will do, sir.
Thank you, buddy. Mark, if you can hear me, I'm inviting you up to speak. If you see that little link there or something popping up, go ahead and accept that. We'll get you up here so we can hear you, and then we're gonna kick the show off. A minute or two late, but that's okay. That's good for us. Let's kick it in as he this whole Twitter thing is still new to everybody. Not Twitter, but Twitter Spaces. So as we all figure this out, again, Fitzy and I are trying to figure it out every night. So no worries if anyone has problems. But let's get going. Um, we want to welcome everybody. Hello, this is U.S. Rugby Happy Hour Live. Thank you so much for tuning in. Happy Hour Live brings you interviews of some of the biggest names in the U.S. rugby scene, and tonight is no different. We have the CEO of the newest MLR expansion team, Miami Sharks, Mark Winokur. So stay tuned for that interview with him coming up in a few minutes. If you're not already following us on Twitter or Instagram, please do so at Eagles Overseas and Rugby Morning to get updates on future shows and news about USA Rugby, Major League Rugby, college rugby, probably youth rugby in there, whatever else it is, we'll have it for you on one of those two handles. I'm Bill Baker of Eagles Overseas, and thankfully with me tonight is Rugby Morning's John Fitzpatrick. Hey, Fitzy.
Hey, Bill. Hey, everyone. Yeah, it was close tonight. I wasn't sure if I was going to make it on time, but kids cooperated in the end, and they're asleep. I think.
You think the
I think.
whiskey, as like grandmothers used to do, like around put them in the gums. Did that work? No?
if you tried that today, they'd probably take your kids away.
Oh, yeah, well, yeah, maybe. Let's not. Shh. Well, I'll edit that out.
I'm not saying I wouldn't try it, but I'm sure.
We'll edit that out. Well, real quick, let's talk
That
about.
segment was actually sponsored by Jameson Whiskey, so thank you.
You know, the funny thing is, I'm sipping a 12-year-old Jameson right now, which is great. This is my new go-to sipping drink during our shows. Real quick, Fitzy, before we get to our guest, we want to get to him pretty quick because as we look at our notes, we got a lot we want to talk about with him. But there's a couple of things I want to talk to you about. It's college rugby. Did you happen to see the teaser to that Quinnipiac College women's rugby documentary coming out?
I love rugby. I'll watch any rugby documentary. That little trailer was an exceptionally good one. I was impressed.
Yeah, and I forgot. I'm watching and going, that's Alana Meyer. She played. I was like, that's right. And you forget about it. It's not a big school. It's down there in Connecticut. Well, down for me, the first D1 NCAA program, and now there's 30. So, 30 doesn't seem like a lot if you consider all the D1 universities and colleges in the country. So, I mean that's I can't wait to see that come out. When I've been coaching, as you know, I've been coaching soccer for a long time, high school and the college age too. And one of my former players plays rugby at UMass, and on her list of schools she wanted to go to was Quinnipiac, a couple of the schools in UMass. And she decided on UMass. She's playing rugby there. And then I sent her that documentary. She's like, "Are you telling me I should have gone to Quinnipiac?" Well, maybe.
I sent her those rugby morning shirts. Did she ever get them?
Yeah. Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, and I also sent her Christine Summers' old Harlequins warm-ups. So she has those too. So she's set. I'm pretty sure she's set.
Wow. Yeah.
And one last thing, our old pal and former USA Rugby men's head coach John Mitchell has landed. We heard he's now apparently going to be named England's new head of women's rugby. So good to see him popping up in the Northern Hemisphere again. I'm actually looking forward to hearing where Gary Gold pops up. You haven't heard anything, have you?
No, but I feel like you know something.
You think Gary knows something?
No, I feel like you know something. You're not telling. You're teasing. What's going on here?
I think Mark Winokur in a minute is going to tell us he's going to be the new scrum half for the. No, wait, we already have one of those. No, I don't. I wish I did. All right, man. Let's go. Let's get into our interview. We only have one guest tonight for you guys. It's kind of designed that way. I think we may be able to get maybe 2 or 3 extra minutes out of him, but I know he's a busy man, so let's get right to him. Joining us tonight, again, is a man who is no newbie when it comes to starting rugby franchises. Let's all welcome Miami Sharks CEO, Mark Winokur. Hey, Mark.
Can you hear me, guys?
We can. How are you? I'm
well. How are you guys? Sounds like you're having fun.
Well, always having fun, Mark. Come on, we're talking about rugby. I mean, why wouldn't you have fun?
Well, it is supposed to be. When you get to the professional level, sometimes that fun dynamic changes a little bit. But
right. Well, we'll leave that up to you.
Sure.
Well, how are you, Mark?
Yeah, I'm well. I'm not sure what day it is or what city I'm in, but hanging in, and we're just getting going now, and it's a big challenge, but fun so far, and no time to think about anything but just trying to build this thing and get it off the ground.
Yeah, I mean, and speaking of fun, you had quite the launch party last week in Miami. I was listening to what I could, and it was right in the middle of our show also. But I heard Spanish, I heard English, I heard an Irish accent at some point. It looked to be truly a melting pot. I mean, how'd that evening go?
Yeah, it was tremendous. I mean, I think we expected about 75% attendance, and I think we got about 110% attendance.
Wow.
So it was great. I mean, I was in a room full of people of whom I knew pretty close to zero, but a rugby room is a rugby room, and it was a lot of fun.
I mean, hopefully you dress for the Miami Heat, and Heat's nothing right now, so I don't know how you're going to do it in June.
This is what everybody tells me is, just wait for the real hot weather, and kind of melting already because I lived 35 years in Canada. So
yeah,
this is a little different, but just another obstacle to overcome, and I'm sure nobody's too concerned about my comfort or discomfort anyway.
Yeah, what's going to happen is you're going to have away matches in early June in Toronto.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. We'll tell the guys to pack their parkas, and yeah, it'd be great.
One last thing for you before we really kick into the interview. While I was researching for tonight, I saw you grew up playing football before moving over to rugby. Were you a big CFL fan?
Actually, I was.
Yeah.
I played college football at a school in Quebec called Champlain. I was on the first team ever there.
Wow.
And we were actually the host campus for their training camp. So I was a big Montreal Alouettes fan and a big CFL fan back in the day. I haven't followed it in many years, but yeah, I was.
Like Warren Moon days.
Yeah, Warren. Even before that, Johnny Rogers, if you can remember him. I mean,
wow.
we really get back to we're back to dinosaur time.
When they wore the leather helmets? No, not that long ago.
Yeah.
Sorry. All right.
Just not carried away.
Yeah, I know. All right. So let's talk about the Sharks, okay? So, we say most snowbirds leave Canada and the colder climates of the U.S. to move to Miami and retire, but that doesn't appear to be the case here, at least not the retirement part. So generally speaking, I know you were already out of Toronto, so what made you want to join the Miami Sharks?
It was just it really wasn't a long process. I was still in Toronto, but
yeah,
I had my job had evolved a little bit, and this came across the desk of an agent friend of mine, a guy I deal with, had dealt with as Gem of the Arrows, and he plopped it on my desk, and I said, you know what, let's take a shot. And it really kind of happened pretty quickly. It excited me about the passion and the energy that the ownership group had, and I thought, you know what, shoot your shot, right? Because there may not be another one.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mark, as Bill mentioned, you were part of the group that launched the Toronto Arrows. So this is your second crack, right, at putting together an expansion MLR team. Tell us, what did you learn from your time with the Arrows that you can put to use while building the Sharks?
Yeah, it's funny because it's really such a totally different set of circumstances. And of course, with the Arrows, we had some infrastructure with the top amateur team in Canada at the time, the Ontario Blues provincial team, many of whom are still with the Arrows, but we had the core of that team, so we knew we had that. We knew we had a certain amount of following, and we really got off to a great start. And then, COVID hit, and I mean, I don't think anybody was as devastated by the pandemic as we were. We had to move to Atlanta for 5 months. We had to derail ticket sales for almost 3 years. We had to start all over from sponsorship. So it was really, really an unfortunate series of events. And it's hard to say that you would take much typical learning, out of it, because the pandemic just changed the dynamic so dramatically. I think the one thing that I would take out of it is, you can't just rely on the rugby community. You've got to get new sports fans involved as soon as you can. Not to ignore the rugby community, but certainly, the ones that are going to make or break it for you are the ones that haven't been to a game yet.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, new fans are what really grow the sport. And if you go on MLR Reddit, I don't know if you've ever been on there and peruse some of the stuff that people say on there, but I think a lot of fans were excited about MLR and expansion efforts and new teams coming up. And Chicago certainly seemed like that came together pretty quickly. And then there were rumors of, St. Louis, another group potentially in Canada. Is the LA team is going to come back? I'm getting around to my question, but Miami it seemed like that kind of came out of nowhere, maybe. How long had the club been in the making? Was this kind of a slow, deliberate process, or did this speed along pretty quickly after Chicago?
No, I think there was groups looking at Miami. I know this from my days in Toronto. There was groups looking at Miami, probably even before the pandemic hit, different groups, but it really got more serious around about last spring, summer. And there were 2 or 3 groups, bidding for the rights in Miami, and this current ownership group that we have here prevailed. But no, this was not new news. There have been people who have, sort of kicked the tires on a Miami team for probably 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, and was that part of this current ownership group? I'm assuming they did a bunch of market research, but were they just really confident, maybe in the the demographics that Miami offers in terms of population, nightlife, entertainment, rugby, all of that?
I think so. Listen, it's a very heavily Latin influenced city. It's always been a sports mad city. The Dolphins going back, 50 odd years, to the unbeaten season, and then the Heat coming along, the Marlins and the Panthers and so on. So I think they took the heavy sports interest that there is that Floridians have, and combined that with the Latin influence, and really felt like this is the place to put a team and take it to the next level in MLR in terms of and fun and competition.
And have you been using Duolingo? Are you boning up on your Spanish?
Yeah, no, that's been interesting. I mean, I have a decent working ability in French. I've gotten to the point where I can read a paragraph in Spanish and I know what it's about. Yeah. And I've actually gotten in only a week. I've gotten to the point where I can pick out a couple of words and have some idea what they're talking about. So I can tell that they're not, at least to my face, openly, openly slagging me. But that's going to be going to be a challenge. Fortunately, most of them speak pretty good English, and we're rugby people. That's your own sort of culture and language unto itself.
Yeah, what can you tell us about the ownership group and I guess some of the front office staff that are started to be put into place in Miami?
Well, there isn't much. I mean, there's the main group of owners, Coney Strazzolini, Marco Scalprin, and Ali McFarlane. They're the main guys. There are others. There are only 3 employees at this point. There's myself, Mariano Marco, who is a Argentinian but has lived in Miami for 10 years and has a law degree, and our head coach, Jose Palatina, Coachy. And that's it. So we're carrying every single file that they're known to man right now and trying to figure it out and do all the, get all the big pieces in place before we hire the next round. And then we have to find a team and, all that sort of stuff. So it is you wake up in the morning, it's a little bit overwhelming, but get to the end of the day and you make progress.
So basically you're working at the breakfast buffet at the Hilton Inn in the mornings going over plans.
Yeah, I've got a little place in Pembroke Pines and just settling in and trying to get used to it.
Yeah.
And just trying to meet as many people and get connected with as many people in South Florida as we can, sponsorship and stadium leases and broadcast deals and all that stuff, and just trying to piece it together. And we're kind of working a 26-hour day, but bit by bit you can see it start to form.
Wow.
Well, Mark, if you're looking for your 4th employee, Bill makes a great mascot. He would be a fantastic mascot for you. A lot of energy. Yeah.
Well, listen, get yourself a shark suit and come on down and join the queue.
I've got usually mascots have big stomachs, so I got it going. I think I don't know what I've seen. Yeah. Hey, listeners, real quick, just a reminder: we'd love to have you come up and ask questions. You can do so by requesting the bottom left of the Twitter app. If you were listening in on the live streams on Twitter, on Instagram or Facebook, you can either drop a message into the chat there, we can ask it for you, or jump over to the Twitter app and join us here. This is a unique show that we offer here in the States. It's not much like it to give you this access to people like Mark Winokur. And you can also ask myself or Fitzy questions as well. So there you go. With that said, we do have our first question from Coach Red. Hey, Coach.
Hey, and I appreciate you letting me on. And Mark, I'm excited about the Miami team. And I know this may be getting ahead of it because, like you said, there's only 3 employees. But do you feel from what you're hearing that the league is going to add an additional team besides Miami, since y'all will probably play in the East Division? And will there be expansion in the West just to kind of keep everything even? And I know that's getting ahead of everything and you're just starting with 3 employees, but that's kind of, something I would wonder in order to keep the league, even and keep things going.
Yeah, balance. No, that's a good question. Listen, there's always people in discussion with folks at MLR League office and other board people, and there are, a number, probably a small number of people looking at 2024 or 2025 as an opportunity to get in. I don't know the answer, and I'm not being disingenuous. I honestly don't know the answer. These things tend to happen slowly and then all at once, if you know what I mean. I think similar to Chicago, which it wasn't a thing, and then it was. I think we're probably 3 or 4 months away from knowing exactly what the configuration looks like. I mean, obviously everybody would like, a balanced schedule and, not an even number of teams, but there's so many different things that go into the successful launch of a team. I really couldn't say at this point. I would say it's probably 50-50. Eventually there will be expansion. That's a certainty, but whether it happens next year, I really couldn't say.
And just feeding off what Coach asked there, Mark, let's just say they added another franchise this year, whatever else, and it's a Canadian franchise. And with your knowledge of the landscape there, where do you think would be a great location?
Well, listen, I mean, it's no secret that people have looked at Vancouver and Victoria. I think, listen, the way that this works is the league doesn't just say, hey, let's put a team there and write them a check. It's somebody has to come up with the money and do the work. And that sounds simple because it's a short sentence, but it's not. And when you look at the conversion of Canadian dollars to US, you're putting a premium on what is already a very high price. So that's not to say that it will never happen, but it's a big ask. If the buy-in price is, I'm making this up a little bit, but if the buy-in price is 10 million US, that's 13.2 million Canadian, which is a couple of bucks. So could Canada support a second team? I'm not even sure about that, given the amount of talent that's been drained south by US teams. Would it be a good market for rugby? Yeah, for sure. But as I say, there's just so many different dots to connect before you get a team kicked off. I really couldn't say what's going to happen there.
Yeah, and speaking of, there's that saying, as you know, it's no reason to reinvent the wheel. And I know you just said there's 3 of you working full time. Have you already started looking at the models that other organizations are using? In other words, are you looking at what other teams are offering fans, let's say from festival atmospheres to youth programs, anything to get butts in seats and gaining new fans? And if so,
Sure.
I mean, what can you take from those clubs?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I've been the fortunate thing is I've been around the league for a bit, since the beginning of year 2, and know most of the key actors and know most of the places and there are best practices, but the thing that's so challenging is every market is different.
Yeah.
Miami is as different from Toronto as night and day. It's as different from Utah as night and day. Utah is different from Houston. San Diego is different from Washington. Every market has its unique advantages and challenges. Certainly, all those things. Youth rugby. Putting a great fan experience on so people enjoy the day and have fun and can afford it and want to come back and want to be part of it. That's all critical. And there's a bunch of different ways to do those things, and we'll do them here for sure, but it'll be in a South Florida way rather than perhaps in a Utah way or a Washington State way.
And I noticed the team already has a great social media presence, which I think is really important in this league, especially to get noticed and seen. And it seems the club is really interested in hearing and getting input from the fan base as building already on things like jersey options. Was that a planned thing, a deliberate decision, or just kind of you guys just ran with it and just started doing it?
Yeah, no, that was a deliberate decision. I mean, we want to make sure that, first of all, I mean, you have to, as I said at the beginning, you have to capture the local rugby fan base and have them on side. There have been other MLR franchises that started by alienating their local fan base, and they aren't even around anymore. So that's job one, is make sure the local rugby community is behind you. We think they are, and keep them engaged. I mean, there are founding supporters, and then we have to figure out how do we get that first 3,000 in the stands through the rugby community, and then we got to get that next 5, 6, 7,000 just, people who discover rugby and fall in love with it and just enjoy the unique kind of fun party atmosphere the rugby game is.
Yeah, Mark, you talked a little bit about it. It seems it's, definitely collecting the flair of the local rugby community. It seems like the club has really leaned into that whole Miami Vice vibe, with the colors,
Yeah.
maybe the attitude, the fonts and stuff.
Yeah.
Is that the case? And is there any merchandise available yet? Because look, I'm an Old Glory DC fan, but I might have to get my hands on
Yeah, me
Miami
too.
Sharks jersey.
Definitely getting some hats and shirts.
Yeah. No, we're just getting going on that now. In fact, we have a discussion about it tomorrow. Listen, I think that if you're going to play out of Miami and make any noise, you've got to get with the local vibe and just the colors of sky and magenta and black just seem, and white seem so perfect for Miami, so different from what's in the rest of the league. And we just kind of, said, yeah, let's embrace that flair, and that's how we're going to play, and that's how we're going to present the club, and let's be all about it.
Yeah. And speaking of the team name Sharks, right? That seems like it makes so much sense, right? Based in Miami. Were there any other names that made the short list? There are a couple other Sharks out there in the rugby community. Sale, the Sharks down in South Africa, that competing claims on which is the best Sharks team. But were there any other names that are under consideration?
That's that precedes me. I don't know. I don't think so. I think that these guys had been set on Sharks from day one. I mean, I always go back to that great Al Pacino movie, but that was a different sport. But yeah, I think that was the one that they wanted to go with from the beginning, and I don't think there was much doubt or consideration. I think, listen, there's so many different ways to do that, and some teams name the team and get feedback, and you're never going to make everybody happy. So, most of the teams in MLR have just said, look, this is what we're going with. We think this is a good brand exercise for us, and we're gonna rock up and do it.
Mark, I can tell you one thing that's going to make everyone happy is if you guys refuse to play the song Baby Shark during the home games. You'll be off to a great start.
Listen, if that song gets played, I can tell you for the record, it will not be me recommending.
Oh, Jesus. So, Mark, let's talk South Florida professional sports market. All right, a lot of cities have this issue. A lot of teams trying to break into the market. Miami area has a very rich major sports market. And then you add in tennis, soccer, probably highlight.
Yeah.
Any worries being able to break into that tight market?
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say worries. We know it's going to be a challenge. There is so much to do here. And not just sports. There's all kinds of things to just be outside, and sitting inside watching television may not be one of them. But we think that rugby is a different enough, and this is because you're rugby people. Rugby is a different enough culture that we think we can get people who, have an idea of what going to a pro sports game is to see this differently. This is, rugby is probably the most interactive professional sport there is. I can't think of, I'll go back to the Toronto example, but you're not going to go to a Leafs game and then have a chat with Austin Matthews at the board at the end of the game.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to go to a Raptors game and chat with Scotty Bond. I mean, that's not happening. You're not getting anywhere near these guys. They don't know who you are,
right? And
they're not going to give you the time of day. Not because they're not good people, but just that's not the model of most pro sports. Rugby is such a culture, that you see fans mixing with players after the game. You see key sponsors and fans up at the post-match dinner. You see players going out to schools and making appearances. Rugby is just so much more interactive. We think we can get, once we show people and they get to experience that interactivity and that being part of the rugby family, actually, we think that's our USP in terms of a selling point.
Yeah. Speaking of selling points, one of the biggest things will certainly probably be stadium, right? Like where you guys going to play. And saw on social, that the club is scouting a few locations. I think Florida International's football stadium But what's again? It's early, right? Well, what is the club looking for in a home stadium, and kind of what's the timeline for some type of any kind of announcement?
Well, the timeline is, yesterday. I mean, we're working on that. We're working on that night and day. That's job one, along with sponsorship and broadcast partners. These are all top shelf things. We're in fairly advanced discussions with a couple of places. It's and I'm not being disingenuous. I don't really have anything official to tell you. It's I don't think people appreciate what a difficult needle that is to thread. You have to line up available dates, available broadcast windows, right-sized stadiums, people that want you, and places that you can afford, and then shake and stir and get a proper drink. And it's not as easy as people think. Oh, why don't we just play here on this day? Well, we would if we could, but until MLR gets to a point where teams outright own their stadiums or have full anchor tenant rights, then you're going to have to get that combination of time, place, price, etc. Just right, and we're pushing on that. We think we have a couple of very, very good solutions, and we hope to get that done as soon as we possibly can.
Mark, let's jump to player pool. Have you had a chance to get a look at the Florida rugby scene? Places you might be able to pull players from, maybe some combines as such?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, this is, it's an interesting thing, and we appreciate the Florida rugby community, as all teams do appreciate the base. As MLR, has gotten stronger, and the quality of play has risen in the league, the gulf between it and amateur rugby has grown. Mm-hmm. And I am not criticizing amateur rugby. I mean, it is what it is, and it's great. That's what most rugby is amateur rugby. But the likelihood of somebody who's playing for his college's second team or his Div 2 local club being able to join a fully professional environment and make a difference is not high. Mm-hmm. So we have a long-term plan to develop local talent. There are a lot of great athletes in Florida. There's a lot of people who are working really, really hard to develop junior rugby programs. There's one up in Weston, Cappy guys who are doing just an absolutely tremendous job with a junior program. That's going to take a while. So, I don't think that we'll rely solely on local talent for our domestic player base. I just don't think that's realistic. But in half a decade, maybe the local talent pool, the guys who are 16, 17 now are good enough, and that would be just ideal.
Mark, do you have another 5-10 minutes to stick around?
Sure.
Awesome. So speaking of that now, as far as Miami and players, many athletes have come to MLR late in their careers and look at destination cities like New York, San Diego, LA. Mm-hmm. Do you feel Miami will be another one of those cities where it be a little, I don't want to say easier, but a nice draw to those players?
For sure, 100%. I mean, I've gotten, in my inbox, notes from people who I've watched play on television for years. Right. That's not really where we're going with this. I mean, you're probably going to want to have some players in the sunset of their career who still have some value and can bring that skill and professionalism and experience to your room. But we're not going to the goal is not to put out an over 35 team, and you can only have a certain amount of foreigners on your game sheet anyway. So the emphasis is on finding top young domestic talent, and then we'll be able to certainly get a very strong list of non-domestic players onto this roster. No problem. I mean, right now we probably have, I'd say, well north of 100 quality CVs on the drive, and we'll start to weed those out as we go forward.
Mark, I want to chat a little bit about the coaching staff. Head coach Jose Pelicena. I heard him say he plans to move his entire family to Miami to really be committed to the program. which is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of commitment did the club give him? Is he on a long-term contract or?
Yeah, no, I think we know this is, I'm not going to share the details here, but we know this is there's a runway to get this thing up and going, and there's a certain amount of time you need to have to build the culture. He seems like a very thoughtful, open-minded coach who, it's not his way or the highway. It's very much a collaborative effort. What can we do here? How can we get creative? Really about culture and the right fit and having the right type of person in the room. That's the first thing he asks me every time. So-and-so? And I'll say, yeah, I know him. Good guy. That's the first question. So I think that's because that's so important. Again, going back to rugby being just a big community, it's not just about what we do on the field and then go home. It's what we do on the field and then how we talk to the folks afterwards and engage them and the sponsors and everybody else.
Got it. Yeah. I'm sorry, Bill. Go ahead.
No, I was going to jump forward for a second here, Mark. Just a couple more questions for you.
Sure.
Looking at the broadcast market, I mean, obviously we're still early. Have you had a chance to communicate with potential broadcast partners in Southern Florida? And if so, what should fans expect?
Yeah, no, I have. Fortunately or unfortunately, my real world work background, I was a media sales guy for 30 years in Canada and the US. So I know that part of the business, reasonably well. And yes, we've had some good discussions with a couple of people, and again, early days, but I'm getting a sense that we'll be welcome and we'll figure that one out, pretty quickly. It's just a question of, time and getting together with folks.
Right.
So, Mark, you've been in MLR, I guess, 6 years now, and you've seen it from kind of the beginning to now. How would you grade the success of the league, and kind of what do you envision will happen, over the next few seasons of where this can go?
Well, I think, I think the biggest thing that, and I don't know that people, because I do see that Reddit stuff and people are complaining about, this guy's jersey doesn't fit. I didn't like my hot dog. I get it. But the
guy's jersey who didn't fit was Romero Herrera, who's about 320 pounds.
Your words, not mine.
Oh.
He's big. He's a big, massive dude. I'm glad he
I know.
plays for
Anyway,
Glory.
but the point is, this is a startup league that made it through the pandemic without canceling a game, kept the doors open, kept people paid and employed, made it through. We're now just on the other side of that. You're starting to see significant growth in cities like San Diego, and their numbers are off the chart this year. They get the new stadium; they're doing really well. Utah are strong. Are there teams with challenges? Yes, but I've been a sports fan for a long, long time. I'm an old man, and I don't recall very many leagues that started out and didn't shed teams, at a rate of speed. So. The fact that we haven't, we're still here. Most of the original, franchises are still here. There's been some chop and change and some movement and some false starts, and for sure. But I think, the approach of build slowly and then, start to accelerate as things move forward and not get ahead of ourselves. I think that has worked. And I think you're going to start to see the next 5 years is really where the exciting growth will happen leading into the World Cup in 2031.
So, Mark, let's wrap it up with one last listener question, and I have one
Sure.
more for you after that. Let's go to Corey. Hey, Corey.
Hi, how's it going? First off, just want to commend you guys for what you guys have already started. Already selling tickets, I think, is fantastic, and I think your guys' packages look really good. I was in Chicago, so I won't be purchasing one, but a Hound season ticket holder. But my question is, I saw recently that there's some academy tournaments starting up soon, and the Florida Jaguars were one of the teams. It looks like, from looking at them, that they have a U23, U19, U16, and U14. Looks like it's a pretty well-established club. Has there been any talks with them about establishing a relationship, or are you guys looking to start fresh with an academy?
Yeah, no. We're in touch with them, and I think I alluded to them earlier. They do a great job. They're ready made, plug and play. We'll figure out a way to work with them, and they'll bring us into their fold, and we'll bring them into ours. And yeah, we will definitely. That's one of the bright lights that we've seen is that they're not sort of ready for MLR yet, but there's certainly a pipeline there that we can look at, and we're excited to work with them and see if we can enhance what they're already doing and vice versa.
Thanks, Corey. Just right off of what Corey just said there, what can you say about the season ticket sales so far? How are they going?
Well, I think it's only been about
2
a
days.
week.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's about 6 days, but yeah, it's going well. It will certainly jump once we get things like the stadium announced and the broadcast partner announced and start to sign more players, and as it starts to coalesce.
The draw.
But the early response from at least the supporters, the usual suspects, the rugby community guys has been great. We need some of those other pieces to fall into place before we can really count on some new people.
All right, Mark, last thing, whether it's music, sports, actors, who is or was the greatest Canadian ever?
The greatest Canadian ever.
Yep.
Well, I mean, listen, I'm going to be a little sentimental because he just passed away, but Gordon Lightfoot, who I saw in concert many times.
Yep, exactly.
Tremendous guy.
Yeah.
He just passed away the other day, and he was a Canadian icon. I mean, there's others. There was Gord Downey from the Tragically Hip, and there's politicians, there's astronauts, there's actors.
Hockey players. Yeah.
We don't have enough time to go through that. And in point of fact, I'm not actually a Canadian, so I can't really.
Well, there goes all the questions. What the hell?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Well, you nailed Gordon Lightfoot. That was on my list.
Okay.
Not even Gretzky. So yeah. All right. Hey, listen.
Bill, I was going to offer up Red Green. That was a show my dad made me watch when I was a kid, and I thought it was pretty funny. The guy would duct tape cars together. It was hilarious.
Yes. That's going back a bit. Yeah.
Nice. Hey, Mark, thank you so much for giving us this valuable time of yours. I know you're busy as hell. We wish you the best, and we're really excited about this Miami franchise.
I appreciate that. Any support is good support. We're trying to be transparent and open about what we're doing, and when we have things to tell people, we will certainly tell them. We're excited too. We can't wait. And the 9 months till the kickoff will go by. We'll go by pretty quick, but right now there's a lot to do. So I appreciate your support.
Of course, and if you need 2 models for your merchandise magazine, John and I are available. We'll even pay for our own flights down to Miami.
They're trying to sell merch, Mark.
Okay, we'll get back to you.
All right, man. Thank you so much, and good luck.
Thank you. Cheers, guys.
Cheers. Everybody else, thank you so much for tuning in, whether you were streaming online on Facebook or YouTube. Thank you so much for listening. It's been a great conversation tonight with Mark Winokur, the CEO of the Miami Sharks, the new MLR franchise. Lots of exciting stuff coming out of South Florida, and we're pumped. With that said, Fitzy, anything from you, or are you done?
No, sorry, I'm good. I just took a swig of the Guinness. So.
Well, with that said, waiting for a belch. Don't do that. For John Fitzpatrick and Rugby Morning, I am Bill Baker from Eagles Overseas. Thank you so much, and tune in next week. Good night, everybody.